I think if you get joy in it, fuck it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've probably lost Lord knows how much. You see, I'm playing on 3 freaking phones right now. Yeah, so I've lost Lord knows how much money on this, but it's one of the things that I have that kind of keeps me centered and calm. So,
Are those 3 different accounts?
did you used to play Pokemon at all, or do you play? Thank God you didn't. It's a terrible addiction. But basically, in order to play the game at a normal level, now you have to have more than one account to do certain things, unless you have a team.
Right.
So you probably know the original game was just picking, like, just go outside and
Yeah.
But obviously that bored the normal person. Like, it came out in July. By October, they probably lost, I don't know, 90% of their usage.
Shit, wow.
But then a bunch of weirdos kept going, and then they started adding a bunch of stuff that just kept pulling people back in. They, like, for the collectors, they added shiny, like, variant versions. So the equivalent of sneaker comes out and you need it in that other colorway, but the other colorway is only, like, I don't know, 1 in every 2,000.
Wow.
So that started fucking with people to keep playing that. And then they added, like, raid battles. So the raid battle is this thing where you need other players to beat certain bosses. Like, it's just impossible to do by yourself. So the idea was to force interaction. Once you interact, they introduce trading. So now you can trade the Pokemon. So if you don't have a shiny, but you have, like, this crazy raid boss that someone else doesn't have, you're like, oh, I'll trade you that for that. So then we created that. And it just, every week, every whatever, they just add more and more shit. And
Damn.
so yeah, I got suckered into it. I don't know. There's just aspects of the game that it just speaks to, like, collect.
Yeah.
I have, I don't know how many records, 50,000 records. Why do I have 50,000 records? Like,
Yeah.
I'd say I probably haven't played 90% of them. They're just sitting in my thing because I don't know, it had some obscure cut that Dilla used to sample.
Right.
But I just got it for that one cut and that's it. Or some strange Filipino disco album that I saw just because the cover was crazy. I have, well, why? I don't know. But it makes me happy.
Yeah. No, that makes.
Yeah, same thing. But have we started the podcast?
No, this is we could if we want.
Yeah. Why don't we get into it? And I should leave by, let's say, 2:00 just to be safe.
Yeah. No. My next guest can be described like this. Mixtape extraordinaire, Jay-Z's tour DJ in 2008, incredible DJ, loves food, loves travel. He's DJ Neil Armstrong, and I want to welcome him to the library with Tim Einenkel. Thank you, man, for joining me.
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
So I was like, start from the beginning, and what was your first taste of rap music, and what was your first taste of hip-hop culture, and then what drew you to this?
First taste would have been probably like any kid growing up in New York. 80s. The first song I remember really loving was Jam on It by Newcleus. For whatever reason, that song was played on the radio constantly. I don't know what it was about it, but whatever, that when that bass line came in, I was like, oh, this is my joint. But I don't know. I must have been somewhere between 5 and 10. I grew up in Flushing, Queens, but not Chinatown, Flushing. Kind of on the border of Jamaica. Like, if you go one block over, it's Fresh Meadows. You go in the other direction, it's Jamaica Estates. You go, like, it was literally I live on the corner because I ended up buying a house one block over and I'm in a different zip code. And I went to a very multicultural church, which is, I think, pretty odd. like most churches are all black, all Korean, all white, but mine was, I mean, there was a Pakistani family, a bunch of Filipinos, you know, white folks, black folks. I just kind of grew up, you know, like at the United Nations, and so all of that kind of really was instrumental in creating my outlook of what New York was and what life is, you know. So I hate to use it because it turns out, you know, I really didn't have those color racist issues because, you know, especially in the church, they're taught, this is your family, this is your flock. And so, okay, yeah, I guess everyone's my family. Anyway, you know, I remember there was a older kid. I don't know if he was a teenager, but he was definitely, you know, older. And he was into b-boying, like almost everybody was. And I used to just be like amazed. I was like, oh my God, this guy's like, he's like Bruce Lee except black. What is he doing? How is he spinning on his back like that? And that was probably how I got really enamored. And of course, Newcleus was, you know, one of them, you know, electro sounding b-boy anthem type deals, I guess. And yeah, that was the first hip hop song. And, you know, back then, really, really back then, there was that hip hop is a fad.
Yeah.
You know, really, really not. I guess it's not really considered that anymore. But I don't know, I think that would be a ridiculous thing to say at this point. But back then, it was like, oh, this is a here today, gone tomorrow type thing. But it was really, really big for a moment. I mean, you had movies about it. You had Breakin', you had, you know, all of that stuff. And for whatever reason, these hip hop tapes would fall into my lap. So Run DMC, I remember having their album. I'm terrible with names. My memory is shot as I've gotten older. You know, the classic one with their faces at the bottom and the, you know, Run DMC across.
Yeah. My memory is shot too. So
I should know the name of it, but I don't. I'm terrible. But we would listen to it on the way to like basketball camp, at, you know, things like that. And that was my first taste. The next important thing that happened was, oddly enough, dealing with church again. My pastor's son, who I think, you know, pastors' kids often have a very bad reputation, you know, just a kind of a balanced thing, I guess. And my pastor's son gave me NWA, the NWA album, Eric B. and Rakim, Follow the Leader, and possibly maybe Cool G Rap or something else. I can't remember, to be honest. And, you know, I dubbed the cassettes from him, and that was my next taste.
All right.
But the one that really brought me in as far as a cultural thing was, I guess, 1988, 89, right when I was about to start high school, or maybe I was a freshman. You know, that was when, you know, It Takes a Nation of Millions came out, Slick Rick. You know, Slick Rick's album came out, and De La Soul's album came out during that time period. Yeah. It's almost like these, if you look at it, like it's like, you know, you got the militant, you know, conscious voice, you got the party anthem in Rick, and you got, you know, that crazy style with De La. And that was the point where you could say I became a hip-hop head. And in particular was De La Soul's album, which is really interesting because it's the 30th anniversary. Right. So I guess 30 years ago is when I became like a real hip hop head. I used to go to these Christian retreats. I was like a youth not pastor, but like the leader of my youth group. And I'm part of the United Methodist Church. The church was actually, they had these conference things. So those conferences were geographic. And so you would have people coming from upstate New York, like Goshen. I don't even know if any of y'all know where Goshen is. But I always remember that there was this one kid who kept saying, I'm Bill from Goshen, so I still don't know where Goshen is, but obviously it's somewhere upstate. And then you had folks coming out from, like, all the way out from, like, Lake Ronkonkoma, but then anywhere in between. So people from Amityville would be there, people from whatever, you know. And when we were on the bus, a lot of the people that were in our conference were from the black churches. And at the time, De La just dropped, you know, their first album, and that's all we listened to in the bus. So that was really like the first time I heard that. At the same time, really interestingly enough, being an Asian American in New York, so I went to Bronx Science, and I don't know if it's some unsaid rule, but eventually, if you're Asian, you probably listen to New Wave. And, my sister did. My sister, so I grew up with that. You know, whatever your older sibling does,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
you know, you kind of follow. And I mean, I was a New Wave head, like through and through. I've seen New Order perform live, OMD, Depeche Mode probably like 6 times. I used to just follow my sister. She had to bring me to the concerts. My mother made her. So, for whatever reason, there used to be a radio station called WLIR, which later on became WDRE and became WLIR again. But their whole thing was, like, you know, new music first and dare to be different. So they used to play De La Soul's I Know on the radio. When, I mean, no one was playing their stuff on the radio.
Because this was the time, not to cut you off, but this was the time that I remember Z100, for example, would have, like, their big thing would be like an absolutely, like the voiceover would be like absolutely no rap or something like that. Like that was the big thing at the time.
Yeah. I mean, MTV, which is really interesting. MTV, there was, you know, it's really, people just don't know this or just can't realize it. But there was a point where they refused to play. They didn't say it this way. They would say, well, we got to worry about, you know, our demographic that lives in middle America. But this is the craziest thing they actually said straight up. And this was an interview with David Bowie. They were like, you know, we have to worry about our demographic that might be scared of, you know, a lot of black artists on their TV screen. Like, just straight up. Yeah, we're racist. It's crazy. But anyway, for whatever reason, WLIR used to play I Know. And that two things kind of coupling together were like, wow, this side of me is playing this music, and this other side, I'm hearing it, you know, in this area. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get into it. So it was really like those 3 albums that turned me from a casual fan into like, okay, well, if I like Public Enemy, I'm going to have to look into these guys. If I like De La, well, I got to look into Tribe, and I got to look into Brand Nubian. And then, you know, all my friends in school were wearing jabots, and they were, you know, copying Grand Poobah's style. So next thing you know, I got to go find those. I got to go find a pair of Tims, and I got to go do all that. And, you know, it just kind of snowballed. And, you know, they kind of say when you're in high school, whatever you're into, that will be what you're into for the rest of your life. So if you're into, you know, Zeppelin and rock and, probably when you get older, you're going to like the same thing. For me, it was hip hop. And then let's fast forward maybe when I got into Cooper Union. By that time, it's already 90. Oh my God, when did I go to school? 92, 93, 94, 95. So yeah, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. Right? So late, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Fat Beats kind of starts. I end up hanging out at Fat Beats all the time. I wasn't DJing quite yet, but somehow I ended up getting a hold of these the DMC battles. I don't know why. I don't know what prompted me to go buy these VHS cassettes. And I was just like, wow, what the heck is going on here? This is freaking crazy. And I ended up, there used to be this thing called the New Music Seminar, which used to be like a very rock-oriented event, but eventually it kind of got morphed. It was still both, for sure. But, you know, the god DJ Clark Kent used to throw a DJ battle there and an MC battle. And I went there as a volunteer. Like if you volunteered, you get in for free.
Oh, nice.
So that summer I volunteered, and I mean, that was just, I forget what they call those life-changing moments, but there's like a nice little pretty word for that. But basically that set up the rest of my life from that point. I go and I end up meeting this kid, Kinetic Energy, and his clique, who he was at the time, he was part of the crew called the Arsonists.
Right.
I go there and I meet Qbert and Shortcut for the first time. Shortcut is actually battling. So Shortcut is a DJ from the Bay, part of a crew called the Invisible Scratch Pickles, also the Triple Threat DJs, also the Beat Junkies. One of the illest, most talented DJs, you know, still doing it today. He just did an event in Dubai, like a turntable orchestra thing. He battles, and he is Filipino American, as is Qbert. And you know, I see on stage for the first time someone who kind of looks like me, that is just kind of, you know, killing it.
Right.
Like people didn't really care. Like it wasn't like, oh, like, you know, who's this outsider? They're like, oh my God, this guy's killing it. And that was it. That's all he needed to do to be accepted. And, you know, I was already a super fan. And I guess at some point you don't want to just, you know, watch anymore a culture. You want to contribute to the culture. So DJing was it for me. And I like to say that was 94. By 95, I become DJ Neil Armstrong. Actually, Joe from Fat Beats kind of gave me the name.
Oh, nice.
More as a kind of being an asshole, I guess. Which is not odd. You know, that's usually how you get your DJ name. And it kind of stuck. And, yeah. And now I'm here with you. A couple of things happened in between, but that would be it. That's how it all started.
When did you know that? I mean, when did you know how big, I guess, or big of an involvement that this rap music was not just something you heard? Well, you barely heard on the radio. You played with your friends, but amongst your friends, but was part of this culture. I mean, it's kind of like, when did that kind of set in that, all right, I love this music and I want to contribute, but how do I not just contribute to the music, but also contribute to be a strong contributor to what is this huge culture?
Like, when did that happen for
me?
me?
Yeah, I guess when was the realization? You know, that.
I mean, I guess the realization was when I did my first show for Fat Beats I'd like to say it was Club Vinyl, but again, my brain is shot. It's either Vinyl or Wetlands. I'm pretty sure it was Club Vinyl. And I was hanging out at Fat Beats a lot, quite a bit. Essentially what ended up happening with me was I was writing articles. So fortunately, you know, I've had the opportunity for higher education, and you know, I didn't want to use whatever writing skills or whatever I was taught in school for boring stuff. This is at the very start of the internet, you know, like Alta Vista days. There was no, you know how we log into everything now? Like, you know, we go to a website, we log in usually via Facebook or Google.
Yeah.
None of that existed back then. There's pre-Black Planet, pre-Asian Avenue, pre any of these, you know, login type things. It was just like a free-for-all. You know, the information was there, but getting to it was kind of weird. There used to be a magazine called The Guillotine, and it was run by a female MC named Shaki. And I don't know if she still rhymes. You know, just through time we lost touch with each other. one of the other contributors was a guy who ended up kind of making his name in I guess acting. Mum's a schemer.
Oh, no.
I can't remember who else was involved, but essentially I hit him up and I was like, look, I'm going to Asia to study for the summer. Actually, we got into some program out in I can't even remember the name of the university. But anyway, I was like, I wanted to write a paper about hip hop in Asia, and they're like, yeah, that would be great. Let's do that. And so that almost kind of set me up for everything. I end up going out there. I end up meeting the Hong Kong DMC champions from like the last 3 years. Yeah, like, you know, just a lot of serendipitous situations. I'm on the train. I'm on the train and I see a guy with a Techniques t-shirt. And fortunately he happens to be able to speak a little English, more than the rest. His name is B Chan. And he's like, oh, I'm one of the DMC champs. And he brings me to hang out with this other kid named DJ Tommy, who was also one of the, like, maybe a DMC champ. He was there when DJ David did the hand spin on the turntable. So a lot of you guys don't know this, but there was one DMC where this kid did like a hand spin on the turntables. He put them up and he did it, and people lost their minds. And that was the first, I'd like to say that was the first World Finals that Qbert was in, and Qbert was all about skills. So there became this divide in the turntable community, very similar to like the underground backpacker versus, you know, the shiny bling bling side. Yeah. There was what's real, like, you know, someone just backspinning, which is cool, but it's like a circus act, or what these guys are doing, you know, manipulating sound. Anyway, DJ Tommy was at that battle. He was a Hong Kong chap all the way from back then, and that might have been 89 or 90. I don't know. Anyway, I ended up hanging with them all summer. That was the year that for the DJ heads, the Vestex mixer hadn't come out yet, the PMX Pro, which is the ISP, the first ISP, which is ISP is the Invisible Scratch Pickles. So Qbert's Shortcuts mixer, blah, blah, blah. Shortcut and Qbert happened to be going to Taiwan while I was in Hong Kong to discuss with Vestex building this new mixer. So me, DJ Tommy, you know, we just jumped on a plane and went to Taiwan to meet them. So my opening thing with Qbert was like, I write for this magazine called The Guillotine. Can I interview you? So that was that. Like, that was my opening.
Right.
Back home in New York, all anyone had to know was like, oh, Neil took a picture with Qbert. Like, you know, you got to think back. There's no Instagram.
Yeah.
The fact, all that's all people have to see. And that's enough for people to believe, that must be Qbert's boy. So Neil must be really good. So which was true. I sucked. I was terrible. I wasn't really DJ Neil Armstrong back then. I was becoming him. And from that interview that I did with Qbert, when I came back to New York, I didn't know the X-Men yet. But my introduction to them was I interviewed Qbert in in Asia. Could I interview you guys? Well, what ended up happening was they ended up taking me in.
That's awesome.
As a student, essentially. So I learned from Rock Raider, from Rob Swift, from Total Eclipse, from Mr. Sinister. Like, those were my teachers. And I had a very rough like, basically class was I had to battle them. You know, we would throw $1 in a hat and I would have to battle them. You know, some of the most respected top DJs in the world, I go from being nobody to having to fight these guys, to spar with them.
Wait, one-on-one battles, or did you have to battle?
We would go, like, you know, I don't know what the term is, but, like, you know, I would battle Mr. Sinister. Whoever would win would battle the next, you know. So Total Eclipse would battle Rob. I would battle, you know, someone else. Whoever wins that would, you know, go to the finals type thing. Bracket. yeah, and that was my upbringing. That's how it happened. So all of this, I'm telling this story. All of this happens from the summer of '95 to the beginning of 1996. So it's 6 months.
Yeah.
So it goes from 6 months to me being really nobody to learning from some of the best DJs. 6 months. So yeah, I would say right then was when I was like, yeah, this is not normal. Like, I'm part of this, and this is something I want to dedicate my time and life to. So even though I was in college, I mean, I was still practicing like 8-10 hours a day. I'm not sure how. Either I was here at home, or I was telling a story a little before. I'd be at Fat Beats. So if I wasn't in class, I wasn't doing whatever I was doing, I was at Fat Beats, or I was at home, or I was hanging out with the X-Men. And basically through the X-Men, I ended up meeting my DJ crew, the Fit Platoon.
Right.
And we formed together, and we end up kind of causing a lot of havoc for a little while. Yeah. Until, I guess 2007, I guess we were kind of active. And then after that is when I ended up joining Jay-Z, and kind of life went a little even more crazy.
Definitely a lot of questions from that, from your answer. But one question is, why did you end up pursuing DJing versus b-boying versus MC? Your pastor's son is, or that kid, does breakdancing, was obviously really impressive, and then but you decided to go the DJing
Well,
route.
I tried to b-boy and I sucked, and I tried to graph and I sucked, and there's no freaking way. I tried to MC, of course, who hasn't, but
Right.
yeah, I sucked. But DJing seemed to be the thing that I could do, which is odd because DJing's kind of hard to get into, right? B-boying, all you need is sneakers, and sometimes you don't even need those.
Right.
MCing, you don't, pen and a pad.
Right.
Graph, same thing, pen and a pad. But
DJ's the most expensive, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
And a lot of lifting.
yeah, yeah, that was the thing that I think kind of drew me in. So my first set was like a real janky Gemini table because it was cheap, and I think I had a Gemini mixer, and that was it. I only had one turntable and a mixer, and I would play something off the radio and try to do stuff, but it's just impossible because like Gemini, it was a belt drive turntable, and you can't really do anything with it, or not,
Right.
with a technique. Eventually, I think I bought my first technique might have been used that I bought from Canal Street just because it was a bit cheaper, and it just kind of grew from there, and yeah. I don't know. When I was in high school, I was that kid who would record Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito.
Nice, yeah.
I'd be the kid who was up all night. Just, I don't know, there seemed to be a lot of pirate radio back then, and I honestly don't know how I found them. I must have just kept turning the dial until I heard something. So, like, Silver Surfer had a show. I don't know, a kid named Bishop Lord. I forgot the names of all the shows. I remember Marley Marl every so often would have a show. For some reason, I never really heard the BAI shows. Most likely because I didn't get it.
Right, yeah.
So
you probably heard some NYU shows like Eclipse or anything?
I don't know if Eclipse had a show back then. Maybe. But one of the shows that I did was at NYU that I heard they were located at NYU. The other show was obviously, Stretch.
Yeah.
And then, later on when 88 Hip Hop came out and all that, by that time I was DJing, so I was actually performing on those shows. But yeah, it seemed the DJing thing was the thing that just called me. It made sense. I was that dude who had all the tapes.
Right.
And I used to, everyone kind of made mixtapes back then, just compilations, but that's what I used to do. So yeah, definitely.
When did you know you nailed it? So to say, like, when did you know that you could?
I mean, I never really felt that way. I mean, to be the age that I grew up in with hip hop, you had to be somewhat arrogant. You weren't humble in the battle scene. You had to act like you were the shit,
Right.
or at least not back down. Me personally, I never felt like I quote unquote made it, but when I was running around with the Fit Platoon, just little victories, I guess, which really amounted to nothing because we weren't really getting paid. And I hate to say it that way, but ultimately that is a mark. Like the difference between an amateur and a professional is when you get paid, I guess, right?
Mm.
And our first mention was in rap pages. We got a mention in rap
Nice.
pages and stuff like that, and then we were on the cover. Like our name was on the cover, not some mention in the back for whatever reason. Back when XXL was still somewhat of a quote unquote hip hop magazine, like they put our name as a Fifth Platoon, whatever. But Cash Money was also on the cover, and which is weird, right? But yeah, we got like a full page little interview about what are like who's next,
Who's
like
ne-
one
yeah.
of those who's next type things. So I think those were the things, and then obviously, when I joined Jay, like if that doesn't validate what I've done, I don't know what else will.
You talked about fat beats, and obviously, people who grew up in New York City kind of really realize the significance of fat beats to hip hop community, and also to even artists that are just trying to get together to collaborate on something. If you can just kind of talk about the significance that Fat Beats, the store itself, had to New York hip hop culture, as well as artists that might never have been heard by any of us if they didn't.
I mean, I wouldn't even just say New York hip hop. It's hip hop,
Right.
Like New York. I mean, they ended up having a store in Amsterdam and L.A. for a while, and actually they
Revamped
reopened
it,
in
yeah.
L.A. now, right? But it was like almost like a destination. Like back then, I guess money wasn't really involved yet. Whoever was involved in hip hop was involved for, I guess, quote unquote, the right reasons. So just because they were fans of the music. So it was almost like, just like Stretch Armstrong, if you watch their movie, they talk about like, it's almost like they were the gatekeepers.
Right.
In order for you to blow up, you had to go through them. And they had the Nas, Biggie, Big L, pick someone
Right.
from that era. They had to get on that show. And it wasn't even a causal thing, right? Or on purpose thing. This is how it is. Like,
Right.
I don't think they were ever arrogant about, if you're not on our show, like, you ain't shit. But that was the facts. Like,
Right.
so MCs wanted to get on that show. People wanted to go to Fat Beats if they came to New York and you were a hip hop head. And I mean, there was just that aspect. So as far as New York goes, it was just kind of this meeting place. I remember who later on, I remember LP being outside, and I didn't really actually talk to him, but I think this is before Fun Culture Plus came out.
Okay.
Just the
Yeah.
EP was out. So, he was just chilling out there and talking to heads and, I'm LP, They have video of Kanye performing in there.
Right.
Gangstar. Pick someone. It was just this epicenter of the hip hop universe for quite a while. And then, of course, the divide happened, commercial versus whatever, which kind of maybe killed a lot of stuff, even Stretch and Bobbito kind of mentioned, like, we started going in different directions musically. And I think Fat Beats might have had a bit of a identity crisis not Fat Beats having it, but just the, you know, what is hip hop now? Is it the shiny suit era stuff, or is
Right.
it this backpacker stuff? Like, what's real? You know, and of course, I guess if the winner gets to dictate what is, you know, history, I guess the shiny suit era won, right? But yeah, even back, you know, there was like Stretch and Bob went from doing their radio show to going on Hot 97.
Right.
You know, and I'm positive people were like, that's the enemy. What's going on here? You know, and I think unfortunately that's what ended up happening. Also, obviously, the start of digital downloads and things like Serato coming out and people not really wanting to buy records anymore, and the music kind of getting diluted. So that Fat Beats ended up really kind of representing that backpacker, you know, almost borderline nerdy.
Right.
Like you could buy like an Ugly Duckling record there, you know, and that's what it's supposed to be, you know. But if you're not into that stuff, you look at it and you're like, you know, I don't even know what the designation for that stuff is anymore. It wouldn't be college rap. Like college rap, I guess, is the later Asher Ross stuff. But, you know, there were all these kids that were just rapping now, you know, during the Atmosphere times. And, you know, that style is quote unquote lyrical, and it's
Right.
backpacker nerdy. You go to the shows and it's a bunch of dudes.
With backpacks on.
Yeah, with backpacks on, and that's not fun to a lot of people if they're just trying to meet girls and they're trying to have fun. And so yeah, I think there was just a bit of an identity crisis at the end. And I know for the turntablist scene, the way I saw it was it almost became like before there was a designation between the fan and the and the people on stage, or there was a division, right? So we would be on stage and everyone else was just regular people and they could consume what we were doing. But as time went on, turntablism got really abstract to a lot of people. So eventually the only people in the audience were other DJs.
Right.
And it kept getting more abstract. Almost like I can only speculate, but you know, like Coltrane stuff was really a little crazy to a lot of people. I bet there are some people who are just like, this just sounds like noise.
Right.
I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on in this song. But if you're ahead, you're like, oh my God. Like there's, you know, there's like a video showing like all this crazy stuff mathematically that's happening in this song. But it's unsustainable when you don't have a division between fan base and like people performing. If everyone's performing, no one wants to pay.
Right.
So if I'm DJing and it's just my homies coming because they're the ones who like it, my friends aren't going to pay $10 to see me.
Right.
So eventually that scene kind of ate itself alive too. And for like, I think there has been somewhat of a resurgence. Like the Red Bull 3 style stuff, the DMC battles are still around, and actually the really hardcore musical scratch people have actually found a space as well online, less competition oriented, and just a community based, but they also do competitions and they do them online. So the overhead is not the same. Like you don't have to go out and rent a venue and hope that 100 people show up just to break even. Like, nah, it's cool. There's no, just submit the video, get a sponsor, you know, the hits. That's what's, well, you know, how you can say like, hey, you should sponsor this because we could get your product out, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I don't even remember what the original question was anymore, but
So for that, like, what is your role? What do you feel was your role as a DJ? But how has that? I mean, you've obviously you mentioned the Jay-Z tour. You've gone to much bigger things. So like you can't do the quote unquote underground set, right? I mean, you're playing to a bigger
I still
audience.
can, but that was actually one of the more interesting things that would happen to me when I was on tour. Like, I had my little, I guess, identity crisis, but if I had never joined Jay-Z, I would probably be more like a Cucumber Slice, Bobbito of Rich Medina, a DJ Spinner. I don't think Rich Medina has ever played a Future song. I could be wrong, but I don't think he has. Spinner does like a crazy, I guess, house night, and I would probably be more like those guys. But that's not what happened to me. I got stuck with the biggest MC, arguably the greatest MC, definitely the most commercially successful MC.
Right.
And so, yeah, I got to adjust. I can't freaking shove Dilla beats down a bunch of people who all they know is D-Block. Like,
right.
So I had to.
Did you try?
I don't know if you would say I would try. It was interesting. When I was on tour with Jay was 2008, 2009. And I was on tour, so I wasn't really listening to the music. I wasn't in clubs.
Okay.
I was out doing my thing. So I was still pushing some of my older style of stuff that it just didn't occur to me I should switch it up. And it would work just cause, it was still good music. But, that was the advent of the electronic side coming into play. So that was starting when, maybe a year later is when like Barbra Streisand would come out. And that whole, like the Far East movement and the party rock stuff was starting to infiltrate. And I wasn't doing that at all. I was just, I was still playing Mary J. Blige because I was on tour with Mary J, you know,
right.
and yeah, it was interesting. I wasn't really playing Lil Wayne back then, and I ended up playing Lil Wayne, but, when I was on the cover of XXL with Lil Wayne, I wouldn't dare play a Lil Wayne song. Not back then, but yeah, later on, I had to kind of maneuver and figure out, okay, because ultimately I think this is where I might not agree with some DJs who are out there. There used to be this kind of mentality that like, almost like, well, if the crowd doesn't like what I'm playing, then that's their fault.
Right,
I'm here to educate the crowd. I have a totally different philosophy. Like my belief is like, no, like our job, we're public servants. So if there happens to be a group of people who came out, a large group of people that just turned 21 and they want to hear Britney Spears, like those are the people I need to take care of. Even in a just more bigger scheme, like when people go out on a Friday night, they're trying to escape their problems. They're trying to forget stuff. They're not trying to learn. They're not trying to be educated. They just want to cut loose.
Yeah.
So, that's not my job at that point. My job is to take care of them. And it's been interesting because that quote has been misconstrued, and if you don't take it in context, it sounds kind of weird. But yeah, like I think, and this is a paraphrasing from oh my God, what's that movie? Joe Pesci was in it, the Harvard dude, Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. What?
You know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
right? But he talks about what the job of the president, right, is
With honors. No, with honors.
something with honors,
yeah.
right? He says like the job of the president is, the beauty, which consequently right now doesn't seem to be true. But the beauty of our government is that the president, no matter what, can never be a dictator because he works for us. That's what his job is supposed to be. He works for us. We're the boss.
Right.
He's not the boss. We're the boss. Unfortunately, I think that's been lost recently, but that's what I feel with DJing. Like, I'm a public servant. I'm not the boss. Like, you got to tell me, and then I'll act accordingly. Now, a really good DJ does fit in the cool stuff does fit in music that they would like, you know, and they find common ground. The easier stuff would be like a old Marvin Gaye joint and Michael Jackson, which is really interesting. I hope you ask me about the Michael Jackson stuff right now, because obviously we have a little controversy these days. But yeah, like that's my attitude. So I willfully sold out, if that's what people want to say. It was not an issue for me, because if these are my constituents, I need to take care of my constituents, the people who come to my party. And eventually I would like to say I got to be known as like, oh, he just throws a good party. So I've been able, I mean, I've DJed at the Do-Over. I've done, you know, not just LA and in Asia and whatever. Did I do one? I don't know if we did, I guess Mexico? No. That was an Adidas event, but we did Philippines, Tokyo, not Tokyo, maybe Osaka in Japan. Okay. Anyway, the point is I've been able to do a lot of really cool parties, and I'm hoping everyone just came home with a, you know, like, oh, I had a great time. Right. You know, whether or not they remember what I played is kind of secondary to me. It's more, you know, I had a blast. I don't even remember.
Right.
I don't even remember what happened that night. I was just having too much fun. That's more important to me than, you know, whatever. But if it is a DJ nerd out, which I do get to do every so often, oh, that's perfect for me too. And we did an all R&B party, and actually this is not really odd that I do these things, but I guess this day and age, a lot of DJs are, I don't know, I guess they don't do, but I played a Sade song, and I played certain songs. I played an old Motown song that was obscure, and I guess nowadays certain things like that were risky. And one of my DJ homies, DJ Oba, you know, he felt it enough of a surprise that he posted something about it, like, yo, no one takes risks anymore, and you know, this, I respect Neil for doing this, and you know, that's to me, that's a good DJ, and he's a DJ head. He does an all vinyl party.
Wait, why is that a risk?
I guess some cats just don't do that. Not at prime time. You know, they'll keep it a certain level. I think I played Mint Condition. That was in particular at maybe 1. And I've done this a couple of times just cause if you give me that leeway, like you can really do whatever you want. We have a musical crowd. Oh, 100%. I will do stuff like that, even if it wasn't an R&B party.
All right.
Just cause I don't know. I used to do that. But yeah, if you don't give me that type of leeway, absolutely, I'm scared. Because I don't know what, you know, these kids nowadays, the people who go out to clubs, it's not these kids. People who go out to club are in the range of, let's just say, on the low end, 19 to 30.
All right.
That's the normal person. Then you got someone like me who's been in the club forever. I'm like a super senior. But just as a gauge, they were born then after 94.
Yeah.
So they were born before One More Chance came out,
Right.
before Juicy came out. Like, why would they know that? You know, except through, you know, through just the public stream of consciousness. It's been in movies. You know, people reference it. Notorious Big had a movie right now, or they not right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there was a Notorious Big biopic movie, but beyond that, they don't. I don't know if they know, you know, old Smith and Wesson songs. I don't know.
Right.
I've never heard a Sade song played on normal radio on Z100. Have you?
No. All right.
So, yeah, those things are a little risky. I'm sure they know an Ariana Grande song, but a Sade song, you know, that might be a little tougher. So, yeah, I guess I don't remember where I started. I'm sorry, I ramble. Obviously, I'm a rambler.
When is that? I mean, so I was gonna ask you about Michael Jackson. But kind of the bigger context, like when does the message of the lyrics? So, for example, and not to bring up Jay-Z, but okay, "Where I'm From" is my favorite Jay-Z song because it tells a story. It kind of explains where he came from. But I imagine, and I could be wrong, I imagine if you're DJing at a club, putting that on a Friday night, it's probably one of the things people do not want to hear because they're, like you mentioned, they're trying to escape their problems, right?
I mean, I'll only do that again. Like one of the jobs is to read the crowd. So if you know that they might like that, oh yeah, I've done it. But prime time, probably not.
Right. Like imagine, and this is, being older, but like imagine Big Pimping would be.
I would play that before.
Right.
I would play Where I'm From. Absolutely. But even now, I don't even, like Jay-Z to kids that's their parents' music.
Right.
Most kids don't want to listen to their parents' music. That's just facts, even if it's good. Like they're like, it's old people's music. So, but in your example, yeah, I would play, I have a place to put Big Pimpin' in before I could fit Where I'm From in. However, again, if I am in the right crowd, oh yeah, I've dropped that. I've dropped Blue Magic. I've dropped, the last song I've done is Can I Live a lot, just because that's my favorite song of Jay's. But what was the original question then?
Just where do you come up on? I guess I think that I think the beauty, one of the beauties about this music, rap, but also music in general, is that it kind of forces us to confront contradictions. I don't know if this makes sense. Where like politically or whatever, like I might, or message wise, I might hate, for example, a Big Pimping message, but I know it's a dope song, right? Like, and I understand why it's, people listen to, people like it and everything like that. But you're kind of forced to, in a weird way, forces your hand to be like, all right, I'm gonna play this, or I'm gonna listen to this, even though inside I'm hating it, But as a DJ, where you're, like you said, you're a public service, how do you, what happens when something's a great song, or even, let's go to Michael Jackson, a great artist like Michael Jackson or even R. Kelly, and there's this controversy that's happening now, especially with him. Where do you try to stay away from that, or do you play a Michael Jackson? Do you play,
I've had arguments with people, but undeniably, like, hip hop is just misogynistic music. Like,
right.
I mean, just look. Right. I don't know. It's interesting because people will try to say, no, it's not. No, it's not. And I agree with that side too. Hip hop, I've seen join the world. I've met people when I went to Hong Kong, I told you I was writing that thing, I met people who couldn't speak a lick of English. Not one lick, but they could recite the words to Dwick. Straight up. Right. And that, all I needed to hang out with someone is some kind of connection. That's it. We couldn't talk, but we could enjoy the song together. That's also why I love food and music. They're universal languages. You don't, I could be sitting with someone who speaks Portuguese only, and we can eat a meal, and we don't have to say one word to each other. Oh, this is good. Yeah. This is delicious. That's it. That's all we need. And that's the beauty of food and music in particular, which is one of the other things I'm into. But I mean, honestly, there are, if you work in this world as a DJ, you will contradict yourself if you have certain convictions. It's just fact. Like, you can't say you're a progressive, and then play a song like Big Pimpin'. Right?
Right.
But, I mean, here I am.
Right.
I think, the excuse that most people give is, this is exaggerated reality, those type of things. Oh, just and in some cases I think it's very valid. Like the F the police stuff and NWA. This is not romanticizing necessarily. It's exaggerated reality of what we see every day
Right.
to give you a view into what our lives are like. Yeah, but historically our music, and I say our because I'm part of this now, is it's not everything was like what Chuck D was spitting.
Right.
You
Right.
know, a lot of it is ignorant. I don't know, the bigger picture of it. If any qualms I had about it, I put those aside a long time ago. I'm actually, I don't really like drink. When I DJ, with the exception of maybe, I don't know, once or twice, I've DJ'd how many years? Like, I never drink when I DJ. And I'm actually, for a very long time, I didn't drink until I was 27 years old, which is really late for most. But I was already DJing. I make my money essentially off of people drinking.
Right. Yeah.
So am I promoting drinking? This is stuff I've actually thought about. I don't know. So does that make me evil?
Right.
I don't know. I guess if you want to go far back enough, that was, like when Ray Charles was making his music and taking gospel music and turning it into heathen music. And,
Right.
It's like that, It is a slippery slope if you go back far enough, but I guess you got to figure out what you take to heart and what is just entertainment. Because, I like John Wick. I think those are great movies, but I don't think the average person should have guns, not an AK-47. I don't want to see anyone actually die. So I guess that's the kind of the mindset I have as far as that. The interesting thing about what's happening now with Michael and ours is just that if you look back far enough and you want to scrutinize all our heroes are shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's just fact. Pick someone. Like, you're going to find something wrong. And, obviously there's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Some are really wrong. Some are whatever. If you look at Gandhi's writings, like, Gandhi was a peaceful man and he did a lot for certain people, but he did not write very well about not about African people, not at all. Like, he's almost basically an enemy.
Right.
Muhammad Ali, who I've met and I love, at one point in his life, he actually met with the KKK because he didn't believe the races should mix. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, so does that mean I stop liking Muhammad?
Right.
Muhammad Ali? Or, James Brown beat his wife.
Right.
Okay, so that means we can't listen to hip hop at all because all of his shit,
Yeah.
everything's sampled from him. So all I'm saying is, like, if you're gonna be one way, you're probably gonna have to cut everything out. The only people who can honestly keep that level of, consistency are people who are monks, like, that don't live in this world, because eventually we're gonna do something that is hypocritical. I think climate change is important, but I got a phone that probably some, poor kid had to dig in a mine to get the metal for. That's fact.
Right.
It does it bother me? Absolutely. I'm trying to make life better in the other ways and make changes as much as I can. Kind of interesting in that, like, I don't know, like AOC.
Yeah.
So, they're giving her shit about driving a normal van as opposed to,
Yeah.
like that. Like, come on, guys. Sure, you have a point, but this is the real world. Right. Your example is ridiculous. So I think it's kind of like that for me. So honestly, for me, I've never really called for any ban of any artist, because eventually you're gonna go down the line and you're going to cut everyone out, and possibly only listen to Christian music,
Right.
or Buddhist chants from some obscure old man in the Himalayas, or you're gonna have to realize, we're all flawed human beings, and we, I guess celebrate what good we can put out to the world. I guess. I don't know. Beyond that, that goes for everything. I mean, we denounce Columbus, but any landowners, ask a landowner if you're going to give your land back to a native.
Yeah. It's just no. Right? No, you're right.
Like, who would? I know I've actually met people who have done that, who have, like, they've bought land and they're like, you can come live on it. But to, like, in Wyoming and out there. And I know people who do that. Could I honestly say I would do that? Probably not without, hurting myself and hurting my family. It would be difficult. So, yeah, these are things I think about, and I'm interested to see what happens. On my timeline, though, it's been interesting because all the people who have almost unequivocally, the people who denounce R. Kelly immediately are defending Michael, which I find really interesting and unfortunate. And I don't know. The thing is, I think the trick in our lives is we got to do something so great that all the shitty stuff we do, everyone kind of
looks away.
Yeah. And that seems to be the thing. Like, just go down the line. All our heroes are shit.
What's also with Michael, I feel like he's I was thinking, I have 2 kids, and prior to this documentary coming out, but I mean, we obviously, the allegations when we were kids growing up, we knew that he was in the news.
Yeah.
And you realize how much of a soundtrack he is to our lives.
Of course.
How many hits he had
Of
that
course.
were incredible. And this question that the Michael Jackson I was thinking about asking you, what came up after we were playing Spotify at home last night and Michael Jackson came on, and I told my son, I was like, hero, this is Michael Jackson. And he's 6 and he had an attitude about it. But then in my mind, I was like, wait, should I be telling him? Should I be trying to push more Michael Jackson music onto him? But because he's such a fabric of my life when I was a kid. But
yeah, I mean, I think that might be why everyone's defending him. Like, it's almost like, the people you admire are reflections of yourself.
Right.
And no one wants to feel bad about themselves, I guess, essentially. Yeah. Right. And I think that's what it ends up being. I don't know what the answer is, but honestly, for me, it's like I said, I've already made peace that most of our heroes are really crappy people.
Right.
And what we got, what we choose to do with that information is entirely up to every individual. I guess the problem is when I've heard people say ridiculous stuff like, if you still support R. Kelly, you're just exactly the same as a Trump supporter. I'm like, that's a little far-fetched, buddy.
Yeah.
And that same thing and that same person also defended
Michael Jackson.
So I'm like, just be consistent, or just don't say nothing, which is what I do.
I want to, obviously a hard transition to make out, but I want to talk about influences and music influence on your Bittersweet mixtape. So I have this thing, backlog, and I know you don't have that much time, so I'll try to be quick. Stevie Wonder references in hip hop are a lot.
Yeah.
Like, Blind Like Stevie, DMX, The Roots have said it, and so many artists talk about it. You start out the mixtape with Stevie Wonder.
Bittersweet, yeah.
What has Stevie Wonder's impact been on you as an artist, and why do you think he's so popular amongst rap artists?
I mean, I guess just the music he's made. He is one of those artists that have been able to evolve. I mean, he's been an artist since he was a child, know, and that's hard. Look at the average pop artist. They have, a lifespan of 2-3 years at most before they just fall off.
Right.
It's pretty rare. Like Jay is a rarity. Like, look at all his contemporaries, Ja Rule, DMX. They were all in a cover of a magazine together. Like, in jail or should be in jail. And, so his longevity, I think, is one thing. you know, his talent. I mean, his talent is so great, people forget he's blind. Like,
Yeah.
like that's like the last thing I think about. You know, sometimes that's the first thing. Oh, well, he happens to be blind and he can play the piano. Like, I don't even remember that he's blind.
Yeah.
Like, that's how good the dude is. So I think it's all those things. You know, just like what you said about hip hop is, you know, Michael was a fabric of your life. I think his music was a fabric of a lot of people's lives. A lot of times I kind of refer to like the old Eddie Murphy skits. He used to talk about Stevie a lot. You know, people will get real sensitive if you make fun of Stevie, you know, because he's so beloved, you know. So, yeah, I think it's just a lot of it is that, you know, there's just artists like that kind of transcend even his most horrible stuff. I would always remember, though, it's interesting, when I was growing up, when I became musically conscious was the terrible part of his, you know, I just called to say I love you and all that stuff. So when I first got introduced to him via hip hop, I'm like, who, the Dionne Warwick dude? Like, you want me to like him? So I had to go back in his back catalog to find all the other stuff to be like, oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, okay. We can forget about I just called to say I love you. That's fine. Yeah.
Oh, you came up at a time, and obviously I came at a time, you being more significant in this question, is where and we talked about it, how rap wasn't played on the radio, it was very obscure. So you were obviously finding different genres of music to listen to. We're at a time now, and a little before this, that you have a generation of artists, rappers, DJs coming up where rap is the number one genre and rap is their influence. How do you think that has changed the art of the DJ and even the art of the MC, having a rapper as your influence versus maybe even a Stevie Wonder as your direct influence?
So I could speak to one aspect of it, I think, pretty easily. You know, well, one of the jobs of the DJ before was to maybe be obscure or to kind of find unknown gems. And I don't know if it works the same now. You know, when you say hip hop is the number one genre, what comes along with that is that a lot of money is involved. Once money is involved, it's different. So it's no longer the fan base that you're working with now. When I was younger and growing up, you could have a gatekeeper, like a Stretch, you know, and like the Wake Up Show guys on the West Coast, and you could have one almost centralized situation because the fan base was all similar people. You know, either musically they were trying to find something new, or they were, you know, economically disenfranchised, you know, minority, or, you know, something always kind of joins like-minded people somehow. They all find it. But now your fan base, you know, you saw like the same people that like 50 Cent are the same people that like Taylor Swift. And now the same people who like Taylor Swift are the same people who like Kendrick Lamar. So you're not working with the same situation now. You need to, if you're a DJ anyway, your job is to kind of please both sides. Right? So it's makes, for me anyway, DJing kind of difficult. So before, when you would read the crowd, if I played, I don't know, say I played Mary J. Blige song and then I played a Jackson 5 song, I kind of knew I could play a Stevie Wonder song and I knew I could maybe play a Gap Band song. But nowadays, I don't know. You know, they know the Jackson 5 song, but they also will go crazy if you play Mo Bamba. So where are you supposed to go?
Right.
You know, it's harder to build the lines. But with technology like Spotify and, you know, when we used to listen to music, we couldn't pause a song. We couldn't get rid of a song. We had to listen to whatever the DJ played.
Right.
We had no control. These kids are growing up in an age where they don't like a song.
Switch, yeah.
So they have all the control. I don't know if they even hear music the same way. I don't think they care about transition. I don't think they care about energy. All they care is like, I love Mo Bamba. I want to hear it right now, even though it's 8 p.m. and there's only 5 people in the club. That's what I want to do. And from what I could tell from the DJs who are getting, you know, hired, the DJs I've seen, half the time it doesn't matter. Like, they're terrible DJs, but they have some kind of name associated with them. They're a model / DJ or a designer / DJ or celebrity / DJ. And that's all people care about, to get people in the door.
Right.
Like, you know, if Shaq messes up a mix, you think anyone's going to
Care.
boost Shaq? No, that's Shaq. Right? So, you know, with the bigger question, I think it's made DJing kind of weird. As far as like me personally as a hero, like how do I feel it's changed? I mean, I don't know. For the kids, I don't know if the process has changed at all. Like, you know, you get influenced by stuff and you know, you work off of that. I'm sure people still get influenced off of Stevie. My argument for recently, to me, like, this will often come up when people ask, like, who's a bigger artist, Jay-Z or Kanye? Now, obviously, I'm a Jay guy, you know, and even more than that, I'm a Nas guy because I'm from Queens. But if you listen to all the hip-hop that's out right now, it's directly influenced by 808 and Harp, you know, by Kanye.
Right, yeah.
Like, direct. The singing, the use of auto-tune,
right.
The weird beats. That's all. If that album didn't come out, who knows what people would be rapping like. That's all from that. And I'm positive most of them would say, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was one of my favorite albums when I was a kid growing up. And, you know, they just got influenced by someone like that. And maybe that's exactly what Stevie was. Stevie was that. Stevie's huge, right? So, yeah, I could see it, that aspect of it not really changing too much. But for me as a DJ, like I said, because hip-hop is so big now, that changes what I'm trying to do. I think with MCs, I think, interestingly enough, if you're out there and you're like, well, I want to be a successful MC. Okay, well, I guess I got to mumble rap now.
Right.
You know, as opposed to before, it was like, okay, I want to be a successful MC. Okay, I got to do the South, you know.
Yeah.
I got to sound like T.I., and I got to sound like, I want to be a successful MC. Okay, I got to sound like KRS. I got to sound like Rakim. I'm pretty sure that's the one way those type of things have changed. But, you know, every so often you get that one person who maybe bucks it a little bit. I think J. Cole's a good example. I mean, J. Cole sounds like an older school MC. Yeah. I think he's been able to maneuver his talent in that mumble rap namespace really well. You know, I went on tour with him when we were with Jay, and, you know, he opened up for Jay, maybe did 3 songs, 4 songs, and there would be like, even though it was a stadium, I don't know, maybe total like 100, 200 people there because they were just still coming in.
Right.
I remember him being that. And now he's selling out freaking the Garden by himself.
Right.
Like, that's fucking crazy. In 10 years.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And I think his ability to do that to that level too has to do with hip hop being so big now. If hip hop wasn't that big, he couldn't sell out the Garden. You know, can you imagine Brand Nubian even at their height selling out the Garden?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, Run DMC did, but Run DMC was also, you know, Walk This Way, Run DMC. I don't know if Brand Nubian would have been that big. That's one of the things I always knew about me as a DJ. I'm a hip hop DJ from that era. Like, we're small room DJs. I have been lucky to do some big festivals. I did something called Clock and Flap, and what was interesting was I wasn't playing a lot of, at the time, like the high energy, you know, I wasn't really playing Barbara Streisand 120, 130 BPM stuff. I was playing like the next episode, Dre. But because of the audience, they hear that hip hop so little, even though it was a huge audience, they were, oh my God, I haven't heard this in forever. And they were loving it. And I think, you know, it's like everyone, you just have to find your audience.
Right.
And for, you know, I've been fortunate to kind of be able to navigate this long. So yeah, I've been DJing now for what? Since I was 21, so approaching 24 years.
Wow.
Not bad.
Not bad.
I'll take it.
You're doing
I'll
well.
take it.
You're doing well.
We probably got like 5 more minutes, so yeah.
Quick question. You mentioned we're above Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Future of the Knicks. What's going on with them?
So, I mean, I wouldn't call it that I have insider information, but I do know people there. And if I was a betting man, I'd be really surprised if KD doesn't come to the Knicks. I'm pretty sure it's just already written in stone. The only thing that might stop it is all this kind of media shit that people that they've stated they don't like. But beyond that,
KD and Kyrie.
I don't know about Kyrie, but I'm almost positive. I'd be really, really shocked if we don't. And you know, I was obviously a Knicks fan forever, but there was a big chunk when I kind of stopped. Basically, when I became DJ Neil Armstrong,
Right.
like all my energy was put toward whatever, our shows and battling and blah blah blah. So when the Knicks made it the last time in 1999, I guess, like I wasn't even watching because I was just so busy, whatever, doing all the DJ stuff. Obviously I was a fan, and I was like, yeah, okay, we lost in 4. We got swept, yay, okay. I didn't sit there and sulk for freaking 20 hours like I do now again. But, you know, I know when we were shooting for LeBron, I don't think that was like a written in stone.
Right.
That was we were shooting our shot. I don't know if organizations shoot their shot anymore.
Right.
And I could be wrong because LA didn't get Anthony Davis, and that, you know,
I mean, they were,
and that should have been written. And it has happened before. I know, for example, oh my God, what's my man's name? Dwight Howard, when he stayed with Orlando, he was, I believe, supposed to go to the Nets. And internally, I was told that he's gone.
right.
After All-Star break, he's gone. But he ended up staying. I don't really know, and no one knew. No one, you know, no news was put out there. I don't know if we work that way anymore, you know, with the new, you know, LeBron and what's his agent's name? Something Paul.
Oh, no, yeah.
You know, I don't know if, I think there's a lot of tipping of the scales and manipulation, and if you want to call it that, you know, Charles called it collusion,
Right.
you know, on TNT. I don't know if it's quite that, but I don't know if people make moves without, you know, this level of, look, you know, you don't have to sign nothing, but
Right.
we'll do this if you say you will.
Right.
And
We'll put pieces in place for
yeah,
you.
well, yeah. And I mean, we gave up Porzingis, who was written as like the future of the franchise for, like, you know, for the last 3 years, and after one meeting, after one meeting, you know, what the hell?
I was like, Phil Jackson did something right for Porzingis.
Yeah, but, you know, an interesting sub story is that, you know, forever Phil was trying to get rid of Melo, and everybody was mad at that. But okay, Melo left, and look what happened to him.
Right.
Like, I'm really surprised no one's taken that hot take of, sorry, Phil, you were right.
Right. Yeah. No. Agreed. Yeah.
And no one has. And yeah, and I've when Porzingis got traded, I was definitely surprised. I would say upset, because it's, you know, our history of imploding the team is just not good.
Right.
You know, how many times have we done that with success? I'm pretty sure it's 0. Pretty sure. I don't remember once. Right? Never.
Yeah.
You know, technically we've built through the draft. Ewing, right? When have we traded, like, and it's been woo? I don't think so, right? But my understanding is that all the Knicks fans out there, if you're listening, don't worry. We should be good. We should be good. But yeah, you know, if I was a betting man, I'd put money that we were good, unless, like I said, something funky goes entirely wrong. We'll get at least that one person, and I'm pretty sure it's KD.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't know. And it's interesting because people almost think like, granted, I think KD is that life-changing guy.
Yeah.
You know, he is that franchise changer. I know LeBron's not doing well in right now, but I mean, if you look at his history, you add that one dude to the team, and it's
Incredible.
not the same team
Yeah.
anymore. I think KD is going to do that for the Knicks. I don't know if we're ever going to win a championship, but my understanding internally is that the new regime is doing everything right as opposed to before. So like some insider stuff that I found out, like with KP, and it wasn't, you know, Phil did try to shop him. You know, Phil did try to trade him. I don't think people remember that. You know, there's reason for Porzingis not to feel so great over here.
Right.
The one thing that I have heard, not internally, but just in the news, was like, I guess they weren't trying to offer him a max contract. And I think that's somewhat legitimate.
Yeah.
Legitimate, I said. You know, some people are going to breathe down my neck. Like, what are you talking about? He got hurt. He didn't prove nothing. But, like, look, you tell this guy you're the man for the last 3 years, and then you pull the... If you were at your job and they're like, yo, you're going to run it. You're going to run everything. And they're like, sorry, B, we can only give you vice president's, you know,
Right, yeah, exactly,
spot.
yeah.
Are you going to be like,
Why are you telling
Nah.
me this? Yeah.
nah, I'm not doing this. I can go over there and be the president. F y'all.
Right.
Like, just put yourself in that position. Like, tell me you wouldn't do the exact same thing. Or would you be like, oh, yeah, okay, the Knicks fans are great. I'm going to stay here and be the vice president. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. Y'all are ridiculous. Bleep that out if the curses aren't allowed. All right, so I got maybe 5 more minutes left.
Oh man.
What else do we got?
Actually, if I wanted to, you mentioned the 5th platoon earlier, and it's been 20 plus years, right?
Yeah, 22, I guess, now.
What? Real quick, I know you mentioned it a little bit, but who were they? Who are they?
So
Why did you guys start?
The 5th platoon is myself, DJ Daddy Dog, DJ Rolly Roll, DJ Cotton Candy, DJ Doughboy, Vin Rock, and the last dude that joined us was a kid named I Emerge, and he won the USA Championships twice in a row and a whole gangload of other stuff when he was at his height of battling. We got together. I guess that's what you did back then. You know, if you found a clique, you're like, all right, this is my clique, this is my crew. And we rose through the ranks pretty quickly. You know, like I said, 6 months. Within 6 months, we went from kind of being nobody to being, I don't know, top 5 DJ crews, if not in the world, in the United States.
Wow.
And I say this, like, I'm a humble dude and I'm not a arrogant dude, but this is just factual. You know, it was the Beat Junkies, ISP, X-Men, you know, before the Allies came around and blew everyone's minds out. Like, we were right up in there right after that. So I think we joined together. One of the other things too is we all happen to be Asian American, and I use that, not all of us. So one of us is half Arab, and I Emerge is just a normal Jewish guy. but
Jewish Asian.
basically. But yeah, he I guess, you know, that might have been one of the things that kind of joined us together, because, you know, there wasn't a lot of Asian faces in hip hop in New York and anywhere, you know, to like Chad Hugo. There was a bunch of cliques back then, like the Mountain Brothers. There was this clique out of Chicago that I'm a terrible friend. I just forgot their name right now. On the West Coast, there was a lot more, you know, Asian presence, like with Qbert and those guys, Mixmaster Mike, Apollo, but not in New York. And
Was that an obstacle?
I never viewed it as an obstacle. Some people might. I think actually back then, in the battle scene anyway, if you're Asian, most people were kind of like, okay, this guy got some shit. Kind of like, you know, I'm gonna bet on the Asian or the white dude in a MC battle, just kind of like, right? Oh my God, what was my homeboy's name? I haven't been to a battle in a while. He was part of the Brown Bag All Stars. Had a really deep voice. Soulcon. You know, if you just saw him on the street, you wouldn't think he's the one, but I'm gonna bet on Soulcon to whoop someone's ass right now. Yeah, so I didn't view it as an obstacle. I think it wasn't for us anyway, but we were part of that pure, real hip hop side that was, I think, more just, yo, let's rock. Let's just rock together. When I got thrust into the whole Jay-Z thing, for sure, I'm sure people were like, who the fuck's this guy? Because they would literally, like, you know, all the rock boys are black. It's me and a bunch of black dudes. So I can't help but stick out like a sore thumb. But yeah, I would like to think that every time that's come up, that people are like, oh, okay, he's cool. He's doing his thing. But yeah, so I've never experienced anything negative from us being Asian. If anything, it kind of helped us kind of stand apart. Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
Nice. I know you probably have to should go, but
yeah, hold on. 2 more minutes.
2
What you got?
minutes. Oh man.
Well, you know what? Here, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see what time the train leaves. That's what we'll do. But yeah, keep asking me questions until I gotta roll.
Quickly, I want to ask you about technology. Mixtapes on vinyl and mixtapes on cassettes, so to say, versus mixtapes on digital. What's the kind of the major differences in terms of the purpose behind the mixtape in these platforms, and what's kind of the similarities?
Well, I think these days, unfortunately, most people just don't buy music. It's hard to convince people, especially kids. Like, kids don't even know what MP3s are.
Right,
like, I have friends who are like, my kids don't know what MP3s are because they don't use it. They use Tidal and they use Spotify and they stream. So they're like, what's an MP3? And those kids, you know, they pay what, $10 a month? So convincing someone to pay $10 for an hour's worth of music, most people from this era is like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
So most people nowadays, if they put out a mixtape on you know, on the internet, it's for free. They do it for free, which is unfortunate. Honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why the mixtape culture died, because most of the artists who were doing it kind of realized they couldn't monetize it anymore. It's not like it used to be at all. I am probably one of the few people who still can sell mixtapes or even tries to. But, you know, I'm doing it via the whole dinner and a mixtape thing, and I do like the cassette USBs to make it have this other aspect, you know, that you're of nostalgia. And I kind of partner it. The whole thing with the dinner thing is that your average dinner, especially in like New York, I don't know, you can easily spend $150 if you're getting drinks, appetizers, if there's 2 people. So when you say, if your music is playing in the background, if my mixtape is playing and the waiter has it and the, you know, the customer is like, oh my God, yo, I haven't heard this song in ages. What's playing right now? Waiter's like, oh, this is DJ Neil Armstrong's new mixtape. We actually have it here for sale. And how much is it? Oh, $10. Oh, here.
But a part of that,
Yeah, I've already spent $150.
Which $10 more. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of how it was born. So yeah, the purpose is sort of the same, to get your work out, to get your name out. But like I said, in the internet age, it's hard to monetize it directly the way it used to be. Like, when Kid Capri put his stuff out, you're selling it $20 a pop out of the, his car and whatnot, and you can't really do that now. Like, it's just impossible to do that. But
it was strange for me I listened to the Bittersweet mixtape, but I was listening to it on Spotify.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was.
Get out of here!
Yeah.
When was it on Spotify? Is it on Spotify now?
I think so.
Because I'm not getting paid anything for that. What's going on Spotify?
Am I not on the right one?
No, it might be.
Let me double check.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know how that works. But if it's on Spotify,
is that right? Or is that just your playlist?
No, that's me.
No. But it's weird listening. Like, it's weird that the idea that mixtape and what I'm saying.
Wait. Where's my money, Spotify? What's going on?
I'm gonna send you this link.
Yeah, you guys send me that link.
You should listen to this new mixtape I'm sending you right now.
Unbelievable.
But it's just weird, like the concept of a mixtape being a being a stream playlist when you're so used to like the physical cassette. Do you have any time? Do you have time or? I
have 5 more minutes and then I got to roll, or my wife's gonna kick my ass.
Oh, okay, that's not good. I just wanted to ask you real quickly about so how is the sound wise? How is that? Like sound of a cassette or sound of music off a cassette versus sound of music off a digital platform. I guess what's like the essence of the mixtape in terms of sound? How is that?
Like quality, the quality,
or even like like some people describe like my music on vinyl sounds warmer.
I don't know, man. That's an interesting question. Unfortunately, you know what? My ears are pretty blasted from DJing the club, so I'm not one of those audiophiles. I will admit, though, when I produce a mixtape a certain way, so sometimes I'll do it where, usually I've done it where I take a song and I run it through my turntables and then essentially record it back into a computer. It does sound different than when I take an MP3 and like you can actually work in like Ableton, for example, and just time stretch stuff to beat match. And I've had to do that in the past, or I've done it just because I was working on something quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds different because you're not going through an extra analog piece. It's just taking that MP3. So I hear stuff sonically, like maybe a song that sounds flat, like there's a cymbal that's supposed to sound like it's coming from back there. But when I do it through the turntables, by the time it gets back in, it sounds like it's
right there,
right next to the,
interesting.
kick. Like it loses that spatial aspect. When I've done stuff in Ableton, it keeps it. So that might be a reason to do stuff internally as opposed to running it through. However, my process is definitely I'm a turntable guy, so I still like doing stuff that way as opposed to just dropping it into Ableton and letting the program do the work. Right. Like I'm used to doing the work. So yeah.
Turntables with vinyl?
Whenever I've done one of my original mixtapes, it's all on vinyl.
Okay. Even
the new stuff. Yeah, but I did like a mixtape. The last mixtape I did was and actually that's not true. I did use Pro Tools to pass it through, but I've been messing around with like a new wave mixtape that I was just testing out, and I hear stuff when I just place it into Ableton that's really different. All right, hold on, let's see what's at 221. You know what, man?
No, we should go. We should wrap.
Go.
Yeah, let's wrap up. DJ Neil Armstrong has to go catch a
Yes.
train.
I gotta go pick up my daughter from preschool and
because she can't walk home by
Yes.
herself yet. So we've been. It's gonna be a while for that. Damn, thank you so much, man, for taking
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
It's been really an honor.
if you want to hear more, I don't know, check the podcast and let us. Neil, we need more. I'll
Yes.
come back.